So, probably the question I get asked the most is, what is it like to work in a prison? And while it is better than retail work, it is nothing at all like you see on TV. If you watch Oz or Orange is the New Black, you're, this probably isn't the line of work for you. You are going to see a lot of fucked up shit and just things that you never even thought were possible. And probably the hardest aspect of the job is treating these guys with respect, which it doesn't seem that hard to respect someone. And it really isn't. At least not for me. But, some of these guys are in for some pretty bad shit. It's not all just, speeding tickets or a DUI or something like that. Some of these guys are in for some really bad shit. There was one guy in particular, I'm not sure where he's at now, but he tried to kill his wife and his son, or daughter, I can't remember, by dousing them in gasoline and trying to set them on fire. Fortunately, he only set himself on fire, but that's just to give you the idea. Most people see these crimes and they just want to throw the guy in a cell, lose the key forever, and just forget about these guys. But we can't do that. It's our job to be there, protect these guys. And in some cases, you actually do have to risk your own life to go in and protect them. I'll get into that one a little bit later. Recently, I think in Tennessee, there was a school bus driver who intentionally crashed a bus full of elementary kids. And these are the kind of people that we have to deal with on pretty much a daily basis. And you still have to watch what you say. You're being recorded 24/7. So you always have to be careful of your actions. And as with any job, you should. There was another individual, and just basically with some of the people that are in there, you can't let their crimes dictate how you treat them. And if you are looking at getting into corrections, I recommend not looking up what these guys have done. Because some of them, when you're talking to them, they sound like the nicest guy in the world, and some of these guys are actually pretty nice. But you look up what they've done, and you find out that they raped a 6-month-old to death. And next time you see them, you want to do stuff that would probably cause you to lose your job. And you just can't do that shit. We gotta hold ourselves to a higher standard than most because of the line of work that we do. And I still remember my first day on the job. Of course, most jobs you do remember your first day. At least I did. I had just come off a 3-day weekend. Once you finish the academy, they have you do, it's like 2 or 3 days of orientation. You kind of just walk around the facility and just get to know the area, what you might be doing. Last 2 days of your first week, they have you do shadowing. So you're still on, a regular schedule, 8 to 5 with an hour for lunch or some shit. And you just kind of shadow. You see how it's done, you see what goes on. Then I did that just fine, no problems. Nobody really gave me any problems at all. So I have my 3-day weekend and I come back. And at the time I was commuting like 2.5 hours. Now it's not that far. So I'm probably 20-30 minutes away, and I get a phone call asking me to get there as soon as possible. Well, the entire facility is locked down. Special teams are activated, and they are shaking down the entire facility. And shakedown is basically just a really thorough search. You'll probably hear some terminology from me later on as you go. I'll try to use common language. So I get there. For the first probably 7 hours of the shift, and I was only supposed to work an 8-hour shift. That's typical, usually. So we're just doing shakedowns the whole time. We're tearing up cells, we're doing strip searches, which, I expected. If you go work in prison, you're going to do a lot of strip searches, depending. And we're getting close to finishing. And, they look at me and they're like, hey, why don't you go down to SEG and do dry cell coverage? For being brand new, I had no idea what the hell dry cell coverage was. So I asked, I'm saying, oh, okay, yeah, I'll go down there, that's no problem. So what's dry cell? And they kind of snicker. Oh, don't worry, they'll tell you when you get down there. Oh, okay, cool, thank you. So, what dry cell is, when we suspect an inmate, or offender, as we call them in this hug-a-thug state, if we suspect them of swallowing some sort of contraband, in this case, I think it was a pill, which doesn't make any sense. If you swallow a pill, it's going to be ingested anyway, or digested, whatever the fuck it is. So, if we suspect them of swallowing contraband, we put them on dry cell coverage. Dry cell is a term they use when they're in just a regular cell, but they turn the water off. So they can't flush the toilet, they can't get water, but we provide them with water. And we just wait. Because eventually what they swallow is going to come out. So we give them a bucket. And once they do their thing, we remove the bucket from the room and we start digging in it until we find exactly what we're looking for. And they have to shit 3 times before they can be removed from dry cell. And I remember a sergeant telling me a story. One of his first times doing dry cell, when he was an officer. The guy had came in through visiting, or he was seeing a visit, and he got a bag of drugs from his visitor. Well, they put him on dry cell, and he shits the drugs out. It's still in the little bag. And before the officer could do anything, he just reaches down and grabs the bag and eats it again. And the officer's just sitting there looking at him like, what the fuck did you just do? Are you kidding me? Of course, trying not to throw up, so was the offender. So, they have to wait again. And he shits the bag out a second time, later down the road. Again, before the officer could do anything, the officer just kind of looks at him. He's like, don't do it. The offender reaches down, grabs the bag, and eats it again. And so the officer's like, are you fucking kidding me? Really? How many more times can you keep eating that? So the third time comes around. He shits the bag out, and the officer immediately stands up. The offender reaches down, grabs the bag, and just hands it to the officer. Says, I just can't eat it anymore. It's yours. You win. That's the kind of shit that you're going to have to put up with and you're going to have to deal with. Because these guys will do literally anything, and they will try anything, and they will manipulate the fucking hell out of you. These guys are cons, and they are con artists. And you just have to be very, very, very careful. And the way they do it is amazing. And I've seen some good staff members walked out, and I've seen some not so good staff members walked out. It happens, it's just part of the job. I'll have to get into that a little bit later. I don't want to rant on too much. But you're going to see some things that you never thought you would see. There is some just absolute crazy stuff. You know, before working in prison, I've never seen anybody throw up the amount of blood that I saw that was thrown up. You're gonna see some fucked up shit. You're gonna see people trying to hang themselves. You're gonna see people with homemade weapons trying to stab everybody, trying to stab themselves, trying to stab other officers. It's crazy. You always have to watch your back constantly, 24/7, because you just never know what is going to happen, and you can never let your guard down. There are some pretty positive parts to the job as well. You know, you do end up meeting some genuinely nice people in there who are just in for the wrong reasons. There was one guy, I think, from what he said, and I actually looked it up, and it turned out to be true, surprisingly. I think he was 18 years old, his girlfriend was 17, and mommy and daddy didn't like it, so they called the police and they had him arrested. In the area that it happened, they charged him as a sex offender, and he got sentenced to 30-something years in prison. I think he's getting out soon. And then you see people who absolutely should be in prison. But if you are looking at getting into the corrections side of law enforcement, it's crazy. I'll get into some more stories later on, or if you guys have any other questions that you want to know. Basically, what happens day to day, like the different posts you can work. Just feel free to add something into the comments. Feel free to ask me. I'm on the Officer 401 forum. He's another pretty good YouTuber. Definitely check his page out, give him a like. I'll put it down in the description, or once I figure out how to fucking do all that shit. I've only actually looked at videos on YouTube. I've never actually posted anything before. So it'll be a new experience, much like Dry Cell was. But I hope you guys enjoyed. Stay safe, and always watch each other 6. Have a good night.